All right, let's head to Florence, Italy. Get ready, because we're diving into this text that's all about Florence and why you should visit. And trust me, I think after this deep dive, you might just have to bump Florence to the top of your travel bucket list.
Well, what I think is so fascinating about Florence is that it's not just a city frozen in time. It really is this vibrant blend of history and modern life, and that's what I think makes it so captivating.
Yeah, totally. And speaking of history, the text kind of dives right into Florence's nickname, the cradle of the Renaissance. I mean, we've all heard that phrase, right? But I'm curious, what makes Florence stand out from other Italian cities during this period? What do you think?
Well, I mean, it was definitely a convergence of factors, but a major one was the Medici family. Their influence wasn't just about money, though. They were true patrons of the arts.
hmm
They really created this environment where artists like Da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Galileo could thrive.
It's like if, like, Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, suddenly decided to pour their fortunes into funding incredible art projects, right? That's the kind of impact the Medici had.
Exactly. And the effects of that patronage ripple through history. I mean, the Renaissance really marked a shift in how we see the world. A rediscovery of classical knowledge and a focus on human potential. Florence was at the epicenter of that transformation, and we see it reflected in the art and architecture that still stands today.
Okay, so let's talk about some of those iconic landmarks. The text mentions several must-sees, and I have to admit, even I'm getting swept up in these descriptions.
It's hard not to be, right? I mean, these works have captivated people for centuries, and for good reason. Take Botticelli's Birth of Venus, for example. It perfectly embodies the spirit of the Renaissance, the celebration of beauty, humanism, and this renewed interest in classical mythology.
I've seen pictures of Birth of Venus, but I bet experiencing it in person at the Uffizi Gallery is something else. Speaking of breathtaking art, the text also mentions Michelangelo's David.
Ah, David. A true masterpiece. What's fascinating about this sculpture is that Michelangelo actually used a flawed block of marble that everyone else had given up on. It was considered unusable, but he saw potential where others only saw imperfections.
That's incredible. It speaks to his genius, but it also makes you wonder, would David have been the same if he had used a perfect piece of marble?
That's a great question. It's hard to say for sure, but the limitations of the material may have actually pushed Michelangelo to be even more creative.
Hmm. The text also raves about the Duomo, specifically Brunelleschi's dome. Apparently for years they couldn't figure out how to build a dome that massive. It took Brunelleschi's engineering genius to make it happen. And the view from the top, well, let's just say it sounds like a panoramic postcard come to life.
Yeah, climbing at the top of the Duomo it's kind of a pilgrimage for visitors. And it's not just about the view. The climb itself is an experience, a physical reminder of the human effort and ingenuity that went into creating this masterpiece.
But Florence isn't just about those big-name attractions, right? The text goes on to highlight some hidden gems that sound just as fascinating. I'm particularly intrigued by the Ponte Vecchio, a bridge lined with shops built right into it. It's like something out of a fairy tale.
The Ponte Vecchio is truly unique. It was originally home to butchers and tanners, but now it's all jewelers. So imagine just strolling across a bridge surrounded by, glittering displays of jewelry. And here's a bit of trivia. It was the only Ponte Y bridge in Florence that the Germans didn't destroy during World War II.
Why do you think that is? Was it simply its beauty that spared it?
There are several theories. Some believe it was Hitler's supposed appreciation for art that saved it. Others suggest it held strategic value and wasn't worth destroying, whatever the reason. It's a powerful reminder that even in times of conflict, art can hold a certain sway.
Speaking of hidden gems, the text mentions the San Lorenzo market as a shopper's paradise, particularly for leather goods. But there are also food stalls there, right?
Absolutely. It's a great place to immerse yourself in the local culture, find unique souvenirs, and sample some delicious Florentine street food.
Hmm,
And speaking of food, we can't talk about Florence without mentioning the culinary delights, can we?
definitely not. The text highlights some mouth-watering dishes. Bistecca alla Fiorentina. It's a massive T-bone steak cooked over an open fire.
Mm.
And rubolita, a hearty Tuscan bread and a vegetable soup that sounds perfect for a chilly evening.
And of course, we can't forget the Chianti wine. Tuscany is renowned for its vineyards, and a glass of Chianti Classico perfectly complements the bold flavors of Florentine cuisine.
Oh, man. I'm getting hungry just thinking about it. This deep dive is already making you want to book a flight to Florence and experience it all firsthand.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like we've awakened your inner foodie.
I was just getting to that.
Yeah.
It's not just about the big names and iconic landmarks, though, is it? I
Yeah.
mean, we've talked about art, architecture, markets, and food. But what else does Florence have to offer?
Well, for history buffs, there's the Palazzo Vecchio, the town hall, and it's steeped in political intrigue. You can practically feel the echoes of power struggles from, the Medici era to the Renaissance and beyond.
It must be amazing to walk those same halls where so much history unfolded. Speaking of historical figures, the text also mentions the Casa di Dante, the house of Dante Alighieri, author of the Divine Comedy, which is now a museum. Imagine walking through the rooms where he lived and worked, surrounded by the spirit of one of literature's giants.
Precisely. And his influence is woven throughout the city. Even if you're not a literature enthusiast, you'll find references to Dante and his works scattered throughout Florence.
The text also mentions that Florence is a haven for romantics. It makes sense, with the beautiful bridges, charming piazzas, and those stunning sunsets.
Yes, strolling across the Ponte Vecchio at sunset, hand in hand, is a classic Florentine experience. But it's not just about the grand gestures, is it? It's those intimate moments, like sharing a bottle of wine in a hidden courtyard, or getting lost in that maze of narrow streets. Those are the things that truly capture the romantic essence of Florence.
It sounds magical. What about those festivals the text mentions? There's one called Scoppio del Carro, where a cart explodes with fireworks on Easter Sunday. That sounds a little crazy, but also incredibly exciting.
Oh, it's a tradition that dates back centuries, and it's a spectacle you won't soon forget. It's a great example of how Florence seamlessly blends its historical traditions with a vibrant modern spirit.
So we've explored iconic landmarks, hidden gems, culinary delights, and even explosive festivals. It's clear that Florence is a city that offers a feast for the senses.
It's true, but beyond the sensory experiences, Florence offers something even more profound. It's a city that resonates with history, art, and human achievement.
I'm curious, what do you think is the biggest takeaway for someone who's never been to Florence, but is now, thanks to this deep dive, maybe considering a visit?
I'd say it's this. Florence is more than just a beautiful city. It's a living testament to the human spirit's ability to create, to innovate, and to leave a lasting legacy. And that's something that you can truly feel when you're there. A sense of wonder, inspiration, and a connection to something larger than yourself.
Wow, that's beautifully said. And that feeling, that connection, it's something you can only really experience by being there, right? But this deep dive has definitely given me a much deeper appreciation for Florence and everything it has to offer.
I'm glad to hear that. But remember, we've only scratched the surface. There's so much more to discover in Florence, from its hidden museums to its vibrant contemporary art scene. I encourage you to continue your exploration and uncover the layers of this fascinating city for yourself.
As we were wrapping up, something from the text really stuck with me. It mentioned that Florence almost wasn't the art capital we know today. It was the Medici family's patronage that truly fueled the Renaissance boom.
That's a crucial point. Their influence wasn't just about commissioning artworks. They created an entire ecosystem of support, fostering a competitive but collaborative environment that really pushed artists to new heights.
It makes you think about the power of patronage in shaping artistic movements.
Yeah.
What if there had been no Medici family? Would Florence still have become the cradle of the Renaissance?
That's a fascinating question. It's impossible to know for sure. But the Medici family's impact was undeniable. They weren't just wealthy patrons. They were astute politicians and cultural influencers who understood the power of art to elevate their city's status.
Yeah, it really makes you think, doesn't it? About, the role that individuals, or even just families, can play in really shaping history and culture.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that history isn't just about these grand forces and sweeping movements. It's also about the choices and actions and even the passions of individuals.
This deep dive has definitely inspired me to add Florence to my travel bucket list. I'm already picturing myself strolling through those cobblestone streets, soaking up the history, the art, and of course indulging in all that delicious food.
Oh, I highly recommend it. But beyond the famous landmarks and the culinary delights, keep in mind that Florence is a city best experienced on foot at a leisurely pace. Take the time to wander, get lost in that maze of narrow streets, and stumble upon those hidden courtyards and charming cafes.
The text also mentions that the surrounding Tuscan countryside kind of adds another layer of magic to Florence, too. I can just imagine escaping the city for a day and exploring those rolling hills, vineyards, olive groves.
Yeah, it's the perfect complement to the urban experience.
Yeah.
The Tuscan landscape is renowned for its beauty, and there are just countless opportunities to sample local wines, olive oils, and other regional specialties.
So, to wrap things up, I think it's safe to say that Florence offers a truly immersive experience, one that engages the senses, the intellect, and even the soul. It's a city that really has something for everyone, whether you're an art aficionado, a history buff, a foodie, or simply someone seeking a beautiful and inspiring destination.
And remember, this deep dive has only scratched the surface. There's so much more to discover in Florence, from its hidden gems to its vibrant contemporary art scene. I encourage you to continue your exploration and uncover the layers of this fascinating city for yourself.
And maybe, just maybe, you'll be inspired to plan your own trip to experience the magic of Florence firsthand. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.